Stop! You haven't subscribed to the channel yet? Subscribe now. We have new stories every day. Now, let's go. Emily Jackson's fingers trembled as she adjusted the volume on her sound system, bass-heavy music pulsing through her Chicago apartment. The living room sparkled with a warm glow of string lights she meticulously arranged earlier that afternoon. A professional event planner's touch was evident in every detail, from the carefully arranged cheese platters to the strategic placement of throw pillows on her modern sectional sofa. Perfect, she murmured, stepping back to survey her work. The clock on her wall read 7:45 p.m., 15 minutes until her guests would arrive for girls' night. Her phone buzzed with a text from Madison Cooper, her best friend since their playground days. Running 5 minutes late. Traffic's awful on Michigan Avenue. Emily smiled, typing back, "No worries, just means more Prosecco for me." She smoothed down her black cocktail dress, catching her reflection in the hallway mirror. At 32, she still turned heads, her honey blonde hair falling in loose waves past her shoulders. The dress hugged her curves in all the right places, perhaps a bit too snug for a casual girls' night, but Emily had always believed in making an entrance. The doorbell chimed at 8 sharp. Opening the door revealed her colleague, Olivia, clutching a bottle of wine and wearing an apologetic smile. "I know you said not to bring anything, but I couldn't help myself." "You know me too well." Emily laughed, pulling her friend into a hug. Come in, come in." Within the hour, her apartment buzzed with the energy of 8 women, all professionals in their early 30s, all clutching drinks and trading stories about their weeks. Madison arrived last, her scrubs replaced with dark jeans and a flowing top, her practical nurse's demeanor softened by the glass of wine Emily immediately pressed into her hand. "Em, you've outdone yourself," Madison said, her dark eyes scanning the room. "Though I'm not surprised. When have you ever done anything halfway?" Emily clinked her glass against Madison's. Life's too short for halfway measures, right? As the night progressed and the wine flowed freely, Emily found herself drinking more than usual. Each time her glass emptied, someone was there to fill it again. The music grew louder, the laughter more boisterous, and the stories more intimate. Around 11, Olivia's phone buzzed. "Oh my God, guys. Remember that cute bartender from last weekend? His friend Tyler is having a party nearby and invited us over." A chorus of excited squeals filled the room. Emily hesitated for a moment, thinking of Adam at home with their daughter, Ava. He'd been working late recently, buried in coding projects, their conversations becoming shorter and more perfunctory. The thought of his distant behavior these past months made her drain her glass. "Let's do it," she declared, ignoring Madison's concerned look. "This party is just getting started." The group piled into ride shares, giggling and swaying. Emily found herself squished between Olivia and a woman she had just met named Sarah, the city lights blurring past her window as they headed to their next destination. Tyler's apartment was bigger than Emily's, already packed with people when they arrived. The host, tall, dark-haired, and wearing a knowing smirk, greeted them at the door. His eyes lingered on Emily longer than necessary. "Ladies, welcome to the real party," he said, ushering them inside. "Drinks are in the kitchen. Make yourselves at home." Madison grabbed Emily's arm as they moved through the crowd. "Maybe we should call it a night. Em, you've had quite a bit to drink." Emily shrugged her off. "Don't be such a nurse. I'm fine. Besides, when's the last time we had this much fun?" She made her way to the kitchen, where she found Tyler mixing drinks. Next to him stood another man, Nick, as he soon introduced himself, with kind eyes and a smile that made Emily's stomach flutter in a way it hadn't in months. "What's your poison?" Nick asked, holding up a bottle of top-shelf vodka. "Surprise me," Emily replied, leaning against the counter. She was aware of how her dress had ridden up slightly, how Nick's eyes noticed. The next hour passed in a blur of drinks and dancing. Emily found herself gravitating toward Nick, their bodies moving closer with each song. Tyler hovered nearby, thumb in hand, but she barely noticed him. All she could focus on was the warmth of Nick's hands on her waist, the smell of his cologne, the way he looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. "Want some air?" Nick whispered in her ear after a particularly close dance. Emily nodded, following him down a hallway. They found themselves in a bedroom, the bass from the living room now, a distant thrum. Nick closed the door, and Emily's last coherent thought was that she should leave, should think of Adam, should remember her wedding vows, but she didn't. The next morning, sunlight stabbed through Emily's eyelids like needles, her head pounding as consciousness crept back, bringing with it fragmented memories of the night before. She was in her own bed, though she had no clear recollection of getting home. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Madison and a text. "Call me when you're up. We need to talk." Emily's stomach churned as more memories surfaced. Nick's hands, his lips, Tyler's phone pointed their way, the bedroom door closing. "Oh God," she whispered, rushing to the bathroom. After emptying her stomach, she stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her makeup was smeared, her hair a tangled mess. The woman looking back at her seemed like a stranger. Her phone buzzed again, Madison calling. Emily let it go to voicemail, unable to face her friend's judgment just yet. Instead, she stepped into a scalding shower, trying to wash away the evidence of her choices. It was just a mistake, she told herself as she dried off. A stupid, drunken mistake. Adam never needs to know. But when she walked into their living room an hour later, her heart stopped. Her father, John Jackson, sat on her couch, his broad shoulders rigid with tension. Her laptop was open on the coffee table in front of him. "Dad." Her voice came out small, childlike. "What are you doing here?" John didn't look at her, his eyes fixed on the screen where a video was playing. Emily's blood turned to ice as she recognized the setting, the sounds. "Sit down, Emily." His voice, normally warm and protective, cut through the air like a blade. She sank into an armchair, her legs too weak to hold her. On the screen, she watched herself with Nick, the footage grainy but unmistakable. Tyler must have recorded them. He must have sent it to someone. Now it was here, in her home, playing before her father's eyes. John finally looked at her, his face a mask of disappointment and barely controlled anger. "I raised you better than this," he said, each word deliberate and heavy. "Your mother and I taught you about family, about honor, about commitment." "Dad, Emily began, but he held up a hand. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. "Your husband came to me this morning. He showed me this video. Asked for my advice as your father and a former officer of the law." Emily's heart hammered against her ribs. "Where's Adam?" John tossed the envelope onto the coffee table. It landed with a soft thud, papers spilling out, divorce papers, already bearing Adam's signature. "He's gone. Adam took Eva to his parents' house." John stood, his imposing frame casting a shadow over her. "You've shamed our family. The daughter I raised would never." His voice caught, emotion finally cracking through his stern exterior. "Please," Emily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "It was a mistake. I was drunk. I never meant." "Meant to what? Throw away your marriage? Destroy your family?" John shook his head. "Adam trusted you. I trusted you. Now look what you've done." He walked to the door, each step heavy with disappointment. At the threshold, he paused but didn't turn around. "Your mother can't even look at the phone right now, knowing you might call. Fix this, Emily, if you can." The door closed behind him with a final click, leaving Emily alone with her laptop, the divorce papers, and the wreckage of her choices. She collapsed onto the couch, sobs racking her body. The video had stopped playing, but she could still hear the sounds, still see the look of disgust on her father's face. Her phone buzzed again, Madison calling for the 5th time, but Emily couldn't move. In one night, she destroyed everything, her marriage, her family, her reputation. And somewhere out there, a video of her biggest mistake was circulating, ready to destroy what little she had left. Reader comments. Madison W. "This story broke my heart. I can't imagine the pain Emily must have felt watching her family fall apart, but actions have consequences. I hope she finds a way to make things right, at least for Eva." Olivia K. "Wow, this was intense. Emily's self-destruction was so raw and real. It's easy to judge, but we've all made mistakes we regret. I just hope she learns from this." John D. "The scene with her father was gut-wrenching. You could feel the disappointment. It makes you think about how one night can destroy so much." Sarah L. "This is why we should be careful about what we do when we're intoxicated. One mistake and her whole world crumbled. I feel for Ava the most in all of this. Tyler M. Honestly, Tyler is a piece of work for recording and sharing that video. Emily was wrong, but he took it to a whole new level of betrayal. Nick R. It's a sad reminder of how fragile relationships can be. Trust is hard to earn and so easy to lose.